Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing amazing. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy because it's 2 a.m. guys, 2 a.m. Wednesday, and I'm really dedicated to edit this video so that you guys can watch it, I guess today, because we're already Wednesday. So today I was gonna post a video about, I'm gonna share it next week. If not next week, then it's gonna be on Friday, but I just need to get more time, or I need to find time to edit the video. But basically, let me talk about this topic real quick. I just came back from an outing that I had with some friends of mine, and as usual, we're talking about business, we're talking about and keep in mind that most of these guys that I usually hang out with are people from the diaspora. So they're people who partially live in Europe and America, and they're always here, like they're doing the back and forth thing, right? Some of them, one of them actually relocated back here like 6 years ago. So basically, let me explain this to you guys. So we're talking about, is it really worth it investing in Cameroon if you never plan on relocating back to Cameroon? That was the question, that was the conversation, and I wanted to share some of the insights, some of the different discussion that we had, so that you guys can also, maybe you can have a better answer for that question. So let me start with my personal experience. My personal experience, you guys know, I was in the US for 14 years before I decided, not before I decided by the time I landed in the US, like 2007. So but I always knew I was coming back to Cameroon. That was not even a question. I knew I was coming back to Cameroon. I think for me, it was just a matter of how would I come back to Cameroon? Am I going to come back and look for a job, or am I going to build businesses so that I can make it successfully back to Cameroon? So now, when we talk about business, for the people, from the diaspora, from the Cameroonians or other people from other, like countries who want to invest in Cameroon, is it really worth it for you to invest in Cameroon if you never think of relocating back to Cameroon? And that's really the big question. If it's up to me, my answer would be no. Like, I'm one of those people. We had mixed answers tonight, right? Some guys were saying, yes, you can make it happen. Some other people, we had several groups. Some other people were saying definitely not. And I was part of the people who said definitely not. Because my whole understanding of building a company, building businesses, and investing back home is to make sure that you overseeing those operations, right? As much as you want to delegate, you still have to be there. And I know some of you are probably going to be saying, but you just relocated last year, but you started your business 5 years ago. So, if your businesses were working, then maybe other people can still make it work. This is what I'm going to tell you, right? I invested in my businesses, but I always knew that the fact that I wasn't physically in Cameroon, those businesses were going to suffer, and they did suffer. Anytime I would come back, because I used to, do the back and forth thing. So I would come to Cameroon sometimes once a year, sometimes several times a year during the year. So whenever I would come back to Cameroon, whenever I would come to Cameroon within those 5 years, I noticed that I would make more sales of time. Let me talk about my brother Cameroon, right? Then I made in the last 6 months being abroad and having my manager, the store manager, like my staff oversee the operations. So, and I remember this conversation where my dad basically told me, in order for your businesses to thrive, you might have to just, move as quick as possible. Otherwise, they're going to die. And I could see it happening. But the thing with me is that I was in a position where I wanted to have enough fun, because at the same time, you don't just want to move for the sake of moving and then having businesses not working out and being broke at the same time. And I didn't want to be broke, right? So my goal was to not only invest in my businesses, but also put some money aside, that I can live off in case things go south. Investing in Cameroon, or investing in Africa in general, without really considering relocating there for me, it's just one of those. I mean, like, guys, come on. If you know the culture here, if you know the way people are here, not to say they are the wrong people or whatsoever, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's really tough to manage people. It's tough to manage people. And it doesn't matter if you hire the best manager. It doesn't matter if you hire the best, I don't know, CEO or whatever you want to call it, right? To manage your vision and your business and your investment. People get greedy. People get greedy. Just I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I was with another friend of mine who is also coming from the US, and he's doing the back and forth all the time because of his businesses. So he partially lives in the US and he also lives in Cameroon because he's here half of the time. Basically, he will be coming here for a month, he will be there for a month, and then he come back here for a month. So I was with him and with my sister-in-law, so we're going someplace to eat. And on the way there, he had to stop by, you know, somebody's office. And there was a situation going on there because the CEO, I mean, the president, the owner of the company just found out that his accountant was stealing from him. And it wasn't something that the person was stealing today, you know. He's been stealing from him for years. And the accountant actually has a better car than the boss, which is funny. Better car than the boss. The accountant has been able to build a house off of the money that he stole. I mean, the owner of that company is somebody that used to live in the US and successfully relocated back to Cameroon and built his company. And you still encounter people like that. People, if you don't have a close, I don't want to say micromanagement system, right? Because I don't like the whole thing of micromanaging people. But in the earlier phases of your business, you may need to micromanage people. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to find yourself with negative something in the bank account. So is it really possible? Would it have been possible for me, for example, to oversee all my operations being abroad? I think it was doable before because I did it for 4 years before I relocated, right? I did it before, but I knew I was doing it at a loss. I knew I was doing it and I was losing money. So I had accepted that it's going to take me a few years. I'm probably not going to make as much money. Eventually, I will move back and I will be able to oversee everything. And last year, for example, and I think I'd always talk about the numbers, right? How the school has evolved, you know, up to now. And last year, which is the school year 2019-2020, we had like 270. I don't even think we reached 270. I think we're probably in the 250s students. I need to check again. But I think we're about like in between 250 and 270 students in the whole school, right? And this year, just the fact that I successfully made it home and I planned everything ahead, we worked on a different strategy and we implemented some tools in order to get more students. We were able to get to 350 students. So there are certain things that I knew for a fact that being in Cameroon, I would be able to oversee those businesses better than if I was in the US. And if I had stayed in the US, I was still going to be able to maintain a slow pace. But guys, it was going to take forever for those businesses to thrive. And I don't know if I mentioned it here, but the former head teacher that was at the school, right, was stealing from us. I mean, he was stealing from us. And until, I think it was 2018, that my sister and I basically implemented some internal controls and a system for us to track the expenses, the revenues, everything. Because there was no segregation of duties in terms of the finances. So he was able to touch the money, he was able to sign the checks, and he was able to do all of these things. And regardless whether we were in agreement or not, purchases were done, you know, like without our consent. And it was justified later that it was needed at the school when we were not even aware of it. But I had employees that I wanted to fire. But how do you fire, for example, how do you fire teachers in the middle of a school year when you don't have replacement? Because there's really a big deal to say, okay, this teacher is not performing. The head teacher doesn't even, you know, make sure that the teacher is performing because he doesn't keep track of what the teacher is doing, you know, the lessons, the curriculum, the activities, that he doesn't keep up with all of these things. And because the founders are not here, he doesn't care. He gets his salary at the end of the month and that's it, right? I mean, guys, if I tell you the stories, the after stories that happened, you guys would just be like, wow, how did you maintain, you know, the drive and the motivation to keep going, basically. But I'm not trying to make this video long. I'm just trying to explain to you how difficult it could be to manage things overseas, and you're losing money, you having people steal from you, you having people lie to you, you having people not doing their job. I had teachers, oh gosh, goodness, I had women teachers, and there was this specific teacher, it was a woman. She would come to school, and at 10 a.m. she would 10 or 11 a.m. she would ask for permission to go outside of the school to purchase something, right, or to make a phone call, or to get credit on her cell phone. And then the girl, I mean, that teacher would then go to the bar, and she would be sitting at the bar drinking. And you know how I found out? Because by the time I got home, I think that was 2019. By the time I got back home, because I used to do the back and forth thing, right? So I was there in August before school started. Then I went back again in November. And I remember in November, when I went to November 2019, one of the parents in the neighborhood basically saw me. I parked the car, and then she was like, Madame, there's one of your teacher that we see at the bar drinking beer at 11 a.m. in the morning. What's going on with your school? And that was really how I found out. And I remember when I asked the former head teacher, right? I remember when I asked him, I said, were you aware of it? He was basically like, oh, you know, sometimes she wouldn't even show up. Sometimes she will leave in the middle of the school, you know, in the middle of the day, and then she will not come back. Sometimes, I mean, guys, that was my reality. And it wasn't just that specific teacher, it was also other teachers. When it comes to the store, in the beginning, I had two people at the store, and then one of the person decided to never show up, you know, and I mean, guys. So is that really doable if you want to invest successfully? Because there are people who invest in Cameroon or in Africa, but do they really do it successfully? But if you do want to invest successfully, you need to have a plan of relocating back. Because I wouldn't even say trust your sister or trust your brother. Because guess what? If your brother has responsibilities, he has a family to feed, whenever it's going to be tough on his family, he will go in the bank and he will take this business money in order to pay for personal things, right? He's not going to call you being in Europe or wherever you are. He's not going to make a phone call and be like, can I take money from the business account because my wife did? No, he will take the money first. Then when you find out, he will then explain to you what had happened. And we see that often. People who send money back home to build houses, to build businesses, and the money doesn't really do much. And then you have people complaining that I've tried to invest in Cameroon, I've tried to invest in Africa, and it's not working. Therefore, it doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work, it's the strategy. You need to have a plan to relocate back to Cameroon. Otherwise, it's not going to work long term. Or maybe it's going to work if you have somebody reliable. It's really finding the right person who will be in your best interest. Because the vision of your business, the vision of how you want to see your company grow, you have to be able to find somebody who has the same vision. And let me tell you something, it's tough. I don't even think I found a person yet. Even with your own sibling, it's really tough. So if you decide you want to invest in Africa, anywhere in Africa, but you want to remain in the US or you want to remain wherever you are, just make sure you have somebody who's reliable. And how do you even know he's reliable? Because I feel like I'm talking about here in Cameroon, I feel like when people have issues, they forget that it's a business, right? They will just take the money and then they will do whatever. Just like the story that I was telling you guys about this accountant who was driving a Lexus, who was building his house and driving a car that's bigger than his boss car, right? Just because he was stealing money from him. And you see that happening all the time. So I'm just one of the people, I'm one of the believers who will tell you, if you do want to invest in Cameroon long term, I know some people do like, how do you say that? Les commerçants, they ship goods, they sell it to people, and then that's it, right? if you want to do something quick that can turn, cash, that you can have cash real quick, then you don't have to make a huge commitment to come back to Cameroon. But if you do want to see a company grow, if you do want to build a company, an empire, if you want to create generational wealth, you may need to come back to oversee your own businesses. I know some people who are married and the spouse is in Cameroon. I know some people who have family members that they trust in Cameroon. But take your time, make the plans. But eventually, even though you establish your businesses at first, eventually you need to be thinking about how can I be relocating back to Cameroon or to Africa so that I can make those businesses thrive even better. And I can tell you, it makes such a huge difference. Such a huge difference. I can't even tell you how sometimes, just during the pandemic, guys, during the pandemic, nobody was able to actually sell much because of what was happening. During the pandemic, we're still during the pandemic, but I'm talking about 2020 when everything shut down, right? My store, my brother's store, did not make any sale in 7 to 8 months. So I think the last time we made a sale was probably February. And then in March, that's where they shut down. Every business started shutting down in March. And fast forward, I think the next sale that I made was probably in September when I moved back. Yeah, it was in September. So in September, October, November, December, I was able to work really extra hard and make more money. Make more sales than I had made the previous years. But I did that in, I want to say, the last 4 months and the first 2 months, because you still have to count January and February 2020. Then you have to count September, October, November, December. So in 6 months, I worked really hard. But out of the 6 months, I was in Cameroon for the 4 months, right? The last 4 months of the year. And I was able to make more sales, more money than I had made in 2019. Like crazy, right? But that's because I was here. That's because I was looking for those clients. That's because I was advertising. That's because I was doing pop-up shops. That's because my brain was working and I was here to oversee everything. So if you guys want to invest in Cameroon, if you guys want to invest anywhere in Africa, just make sure, if you're abroad, just make sure you either doing the back and forth, like you living halfway over there and halfway here, or you have somebody here who can oversee your operations. Yeah. That's what I would say. Anyway, guys, I wasn't planning to make this super long, but I'm a bit exhausted already. So I'm gonna upload this video now on YouTube so that I can go to sleep. I have a few hours because I have an early meeting at 8 a.m. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Oh, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Would you invest in Africa knowing that you're never going to be relocating back? Let me know.